Captain Kim Woojin gripped the metal railing of his ship's bridge as the massive alien structure filled the viewing screen. The station was unlike anything humanity had ever built, stretched 4 kilometers in every direction, made of what looked like living crystal that pulsed with soft purple light. Smaller ships moved around it like insects around a glowing flower. "Sir, we're receiving their transmission," reported Lieutenant Han Jimin from her communications post. Her voice trembled slightly. After 30 years of dreaming about this moment, first contact was finally happening. "Put it through," Woojin ordered. He straightened his uniform and tried to project confidence he didn't feel. Behind him, the rest of the bridge crew fell silent. Everyone knew they were making history. The alien voice that filled the bridge was cold and mechanical, filtered through their translation technology. "Human vessel, you will dock at Port 7. Your delegation will be processed immediately." Processed. The word sent a chill down Woojin's spine, but he responded calmly. "Understood. You're honored to meet with the Galactic Confederation." There was no reply. An hour later, Ambassador Park Min-ho led a small group of humans through the alien station's corridors. The walls seemed to breathe around them, and the air smelled like ozone and something sweet that made their noses itch. The gravity was slightly heavier than Earth's, making each step feel deliberate and heavy. Their escort was a floating sphere of silver metal that spoke in the same motionless voice they had heard on the ship. It led them to a vast chamber where 3 alien beings waited. Park Min-ho had seen pictures of the ethereal collective in humanity's database, but seeing them in person was different. They stood 3 meters tall, their bodies made of what looked like living crystal. Light moved through them in slow waves, and their faces were smooth, except for 2 dark openings that might have been eyes. When they moved, they made a sound like wind chimes. Species designation. Human, one of them spoke without moving anything that resembled a mouth. Classification. Primitive. Galactic citizenship status denied. The words hit Park Min-ho like a physical blow. He had prepared for many possible outcomes, but outright rejection had not been one of them. "I'm sorry, there must be some mistake. We've traveled here in good faith to join the galactic community." "No mistake," the alien replied. "Your species has been evaluated. The results are final." "But we've achieved faster-than-light travel," Park Min-ho said, his diplomatic training kicking in. "We've unified our world, ended the wars that once divided us. We've eliminated poverty and disease. Surely these accomplishments show we're ready for galactic citizenship." Another alien stepped forward, light pulsing faster through its crystalline body. "Irrelevant achievements. Your species exhibits violent tendencies. Your minds are limited by individual consciousness. You lack the mental capacity for true civilization." "What does that mean?" demanded Dr. Song Hairem, the mission's chief. "Scientist. We've produced art, literature, scientific discoveries. We've learned to live in peace with each other." "Peace achieved through force," the third alien observed. "Your histories show constant warfare. Your entertainment glorifies violence. Your very biology is built for aggression. Such species are incompatible with galactic society." Park Min-ho felt his heart sinking, but he pressed on. "Then teach us. Help us become better. Isn't that what a galactic community should do?" "Resources are not wasted on hopeless cases," the first alien said. "You will return to your home system. Immediately, quarantine barriers will be established. No human vessel will be permitted to leave the Sol system." "You can't imprison an entire species," Dr. Song protested. "We can, and we will. This decision is final." The meeting was over. Within minutes, the humans found themselves back on their ship, watching the alien station grow smaller as they were escorted away by Confederation vessels. Woojin sat in his captain's chair, staring at the stars that suddenly seemed cold and distant. 3 days later, the quantum barriers appeared. They were invisible to the naked eye, but every instrument on every human ship could detect them. A wall of energy that surrounded the entire Sol system, preventing any faster-than-light travel beyond it. Humanity was trapped in their own stellar neighborhood, like insects in a jar. Back on Earth, President Lee So-young stood before the Global Assembly, her face grave as she addressed representatives from every nation. The great hall was silent, except for the whisper of the ventilation system. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she had to announce, "we have been judged and found wanting. The galactic community has closed its doors to us. They have trapped us here, expecting us to fade away or destroy ourselves in time." She paused, looking out at the faces of humanity's leaders. "They have abandoned us to the darkness between stars. But we will not abandon ourselves. We will not fade away. We will grow stronger, smarter, and more united than ever before. Perhaps someday, when they look back toward our small corner of the galaxy, they will see not the primitive species they dismissed, but something far greater than they ever imagined." The aliens had made their decision. Now humanity would make theirs. Admiral Choi Jun-ho floated through the main corridor of Titan Station, his boots clicking softly against the metal floor. The massive space around him hummed with quiet energy. 200 years ago, Saturn's largest moon had been nothing but ice and rock. Now, it was humanity's crown jewel, a city that housed 50 million people and contained technology that would have seemed like magic to his ancestors. Through the transparent walls, he could see Earth in the distance, a blue dot among the stars. The quarantine barriers were still there, invisible but always present, keeping humanity locked in their home system. What the aliens had meant as a cage had become something else entirely. Admiral called Dr. Yoon Hae, and she approached from a side corridor. Her eyes had the slightly distant look that meant she was connected to the neural collective. "The morning reports are ready." Junho nodded and followed her to the central command center. The room was circular, with walls that displayed information from across the solar system in real time. Mars colonies, asteroid mining operations, Jupiter's floating cities, and a dozen other human settlements all reported in through streams of data that flowed like living things. HAE-in placed her hand on a smooth black panel, and her consciousness expanded. For a moment she touched the minds of millions of other humans who had chosen to connect that day. Scientists on Mars shared their latest discoveries. Artists in the asteroid belt offered new forms of beauty. Engineers around Jupiter's moons presented solutions to problems that had puzzled humanity for decades. The neural collective was not like the alien hive minds that humanity had read about in Confederation records. Each person kept their individuality, their personal thoughts and feelings, but when they chose to connect, knowledge flowed freely between them. A discovery made on one world could be understood and improved by minds across the entire solar system within minutes. The immortality. "Treatments are working better than we hoped," Hayen reported as she disconnected from the collective. Dr. Park on Mars Station has eliminated the last cellular aging markers, and the team on Europa has perfected the consciousness transfer process. Death is becoming optional for our species. Junho studied the data streams flowing across the walls. "What about the matter manipulation project?" It's even better news. We can now rearrange atoms at the subatomic level. The engineering teams are building the first generation of universal constructors. Give them raw materials, and they can create almost anything we can imagine. The Admiral smiled. When the aliens had trapped humanity in the Sol system, they had expected humans to eventually destroy themselves or fade into nothing. Instead, isolation had forced humanity to grow in ways they never would have otherwise. Without the distractions of galactic politics or the crutch of alien technology, humans had been forced to solve their problems themselves. "Sir," interrupted Lieutenant Kim Dae-yoon from her station, "we're receiving the daily reports from the deep space monitors." Junho frowned. The monitors were humanity's eyes beyond the quarantine barriers. They could not send ships past the alien barriers, but they could launch tiny probes that barely registered on sensors. These probes watched the galaxy beyond, recording everything they could see. "What are they showing us today?" he asked. Da-yoon's face went pale as she studied her screens. "Sir, you need to see this. Something is happening out there. Something big." The main display changed to show images from deep space. Where star systems should have been, there was only empty darkness. Entire solar systems had simply vanished, leaving nothing behind but empty space. "How many?" Junho asked quietly. 17 systems in the past month, sir. all on the galactic rim. Whatever is doing this is moving inward toward the core, and connected to the neural collective again, sharing the images with humanity's best minds. Within seconds, thousands of scientists, strategists, and analysts were studying the data. The collective is calling them the Devourers, she reported. Based on the destruction patterns, they appear to be artificial intelligences that consume matter to reproduce and spread. Junho stared at the images of dead space where civilizations had once lived. What about the Confederation? Are they responding? More data flowed across the screens as the deep space probes reported their findings. The proud alien civilizations that had once dismissed humanity were in full retreat. Their mighty fleets fled toward the galactic core, abandoning entire sectors to the advancing machines. The ethereal collective has lost their home system, Dayun reported. The Corvin Empire has evacuated 12 core worlds. The Zephyrians are sending desperate calls for help, but no one is answering. They're dying out there, Heian said softly. The species that called us primitive are being hunted to extinction. Gunhal walked to the large window overlooking Titan's surface. Below, he could see the lights of human cities spreading across the moon's landscape. Gardens and parks thrived under protective domes. Children played in areas that had once been frozen wasteland. Humanity had not just survived their isolation, they had flourished. Keep monitoring, he ordered. Prepare the deep analysis teams. If those devourers eventually reach our barriers, we need to understand everything about them. As he left the command center, Junho wondered if the aliens who had abandoned humanity were regretting their decision. The galaxy was burning. The species they had dismissed as too primitive to matter had become something far beyond what they had ever imagined. The prison had become a fortress, and humanity was ready for whatever came next. Captain Kong Minsu was drinking his morning coffee when the alarms started screaming. He dropped his cup and ran to the bridge of his ship, the Freedom's Dawn, where his crew was staring at their instruments in shock. "Sir, the barriers are gone," reported his navigator, Lieutenant Park Soman. Her voice was barely a whisper. The entire quarantine system just ... stopped. Minsu looked at the readings himself. For 200 years, the quantum barriers had surrounded the Sol system like an invisible wall. Human ships had tested them countless times, but they had never weakened, never flickered. Now suddenly they were gone. "Are you certain?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Our sensors show clear space in all directions. We could jump to hyperspace right now if we wanted to." Minsu felt his heart racing. This was the moment humanity had dreamed. Of 4 centuries, the cage was open. "Contact Admiral Choi immediately. Tell him we need orders." Within hours, a small fleet of human ships gathered at the edge of the solar system. Minsu commanded the lead vessel, followed by 5 other ships filled with scientists, diplomats, and medical teams. They were not going as conquerors or even as equals. They were going as explorers, ready to finally see what lay beyond their home. "All ships prepare for jump," Minsu announced. "Target the Proxima system. Let's go see what our old friends have been up to." The jump to hyperspace felt the same as it always had during training exercises within the Sol system. But when they dropped back into normal space, everything was different. Minsu expected to see the massive alien station where humanity had first been rejected. Instead, he found empty space and debris. "Sir, I'm detecting wreckage," reported his sensor. "Operator Ensign Eugene? It looks like the station was destroyed recently from the radiation patterns." Minsu ordered his fleet to move carefully through the debris field. Pieces of crystalline material floated past their ships, the remains of ethereal collective technology. Whatever had destroyed the station had been thorough. "Captain, we're picking up a distress signal," Janae announced. "It's weak, but it's definitely artificial. Put it through." The signal was broken and filled with static, but Minsu could make out words in a language his ship's computer didn't recognize. "Can you clean it up?" "Working on it, sir. It's some kind of alien language, but not one in our databases." Minsu made a decision that would change everything. "Contact Dr. Lee on the New Horizon. Tell her to activate the neural collective." Interface. We need to decode this message. Dr. Lee Yunji was one of humanity's experts on collective consciousness. When she connected to the neural collective, the combined minds of millions of humans began working on the alien language. Within minutes, they had broken the code. "It's Zephyrian," Dr. Lee reported over the comm. "The message says, 'Help us. We are dying. Please, anyone, help us.'" Minsu ordered his fleet to follow the signal. What they found broke his heart. Single alien ship, badly damaged, drifting through space. The vessel was huge by human standards, but it was clear that it had once been much larger. Entire sections had been torn away or melted off. "This is Captain Kang Minsu of the human ship. Freedom's dawn," he broadcast. "We received your distress signal. Do you need assistance?" The reply came in broken English. "Humans, but you are quarantined. How are you here? The barriers are gone. We're here to help." There was a long silence. "Then please. We are only 100 left. Our whole species, gone. The devourers came. They ate everything." Minsu ordered his medical teams to board the alien ship. What they found inside shocked them. The Zephyrians had once been a proud species of tall, graceful beings with blue skin and large eyes. Now they were thin and weak, clearly dying from starvation and despair. Through the neural collective, humanity absorbed the Zephyrian language completely. Within hours, they could speak with the survivors directly. The story they told was horrifying. The devourers were machines, ancient and intelligent. They had come from beyond the galaxy's edge, consuming everything in their path. They didn't just destroy civilizations. They ate them. Planets, stars, entire solar systems were broken down into raw materials and converted into more machines. "They adapt," explained the Zephyrian captain, a female named Harmony Song. "Every weapon we used against them, they learned to counter. Every strategy we tried, they found a way to defeat. The great Confederation fleets were useless, ran, but they followed us everywhere." Commander Song Yu-jin, who had been listening to the reports, took charge of the rescue operation. Her ship, the Rising Sun, began coordinating with other human vessels to provide aid to the survivors. "How many other species are left?" she asked Harmony Song. "Not many. The ethereal collective is almost extinct. The Corvan Empire lost their home worlds. Maybe a few thousand survivors in total, scattered across the galaxy." Song Yujin connected to the neural collective, sharing this information with humanity. The response was immediate. Rescue fleets began launching from Earth, Mars, and the other human colonies. Food, medicine, and shelter were loaded onto ships as fast as they could be built. "Why are you helping us?" Harmony Song asked. "We abandoned you. We called you primitive. We locked you away." Song Yujin smiled sadly. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because we're not the same species you left behind 200 years ago." Word spread quickly through the remaining alien survivors. The humans had returned, and they were not seeking revenge. They were offering salvation. War Prime Korvax slammed his four-fingered fist against the command table, causing the holographic display to flicker. The massive Corvan leader stood 3 meters tall, his gray skin covered in the ritual scars that marked his rank. Around him, his bridge crew flinched at his anger. "Lies," he growled in his deep voice. "These reports about humans cannot be true. They are primitive creatures, we caged like animals." His intelligence officer, a smaller Corvan named Dick Morvain, approached carefully.
"A War Prime.
17 separate ships have confirmed it. The humans are rescuing survivors across 3 sectors. Their technology appears to be... Appears to be what?" Korvax demanded. "Superior to ours, War Prime." Korvax backhanded the officer, sending him sprawling across the deck. "Impossible. The Corvan Empire has ruled space for 10,000 years. Our weapons destroyed entire star systems. Our fleets conquered half the galaxy. Could the hairless apes we dismissed become stronger than us?" Through the bridge windows, Korvax could see his remaining fleet. Once, he had commanded 50,000 warships. Now, only 300 vessels remained, packed with the last survivors of his mighty empire. The Devourers had taken everything else, or Prime called his communications officer. Kepler Station is requesting immediate assistance. They report a massive Devourer swarm approaching. Korvax studied the tactical display. Kepler Station was the last major stronghold of the old Confederation. If it fell, there would be nowhere left to run. Combined fleets of 12 species had gathered there for what everyone knew would be their final battle. Set course for Kepler, he ordered. We will make our stand there. 3 days later, Korvax stood on his bridge watching the largest Devourer force he had ever seen approaching the station. The machines moved in perfect formation, their black holes absorbing all light. There were thousands of them, each one the size of a battleship. All fleets, prepare for battle, came the transmission from Station Command. Around the massive structure, the last ships of the Ethereal Collective. The Zephyrian Republic, the Mantis Hive, and 8 other species formed a defensive line. It was pitiful compared to what they had once been. War Prime, the Devourers are in weapons range, reported his tactical officer. All ships open fire, Korvax commanded. The space around Kepler Station lit up with weapons fire. Energy beams, particle cannons, and quantum torpedoes struck the Devourer swarm. For a moment, Korvax felt hope as several enemy ships exploded. Then, the machines adapted. Within minutes, the Devourer hulls began deflecting the energy weapons. Their shields adjusted to block the particle beams. The quantum torpedoes simply bounced off their armor. They're learning our weapons, gasped his tactical officer. Everything we've used before is useless now. The Devourers began their counterattack. Their weapons were precise and deadly, targeting the weakest parts of each alien ship. One by one, Confederation vessels began exploding. War Prime, we're losing ships fast, reported his communications officer. The Ethereal Collective Fleet is down to half strength. The Zephyrians are requesting permission to retreat. Korvax watched his sensors as the battle turned into a massacre. The proud fleets that had once conquered the galaxy were being destroyed by machines that learned faster than they could adapt. Sir, detecting new contacts, called the sensor operator. 50 ships, human design, approaching at high speed. Humans. Korvax stared at his display. What can 50 primitive ships do against thousands of Devourers? The human fleet was led by a ship called the New Earth. Its Captain Admiral No Sujin transmitted on all frequencies. This is Admiral No of the Human Commonwealth. All Confederation ships pulled back to safe distance. We'll handle this. Korvax laughed bitterly. Handle this? You fools will be destroyed in minutes. But as he watched, something impossible began to happen. The human ships moved like they were controlled by a single mind. They flowed around the Devourer formation like water, never where the enemy weapons expected them to be. The human weapons were different too. Instead of trying to overpower the Devourer defenses, they seemed to confuse them. Energy pulses that made the machine shields turn against their own hulls. Computer viruses that spread from ship to ship, turning the Devourer's adaptive systems into weapons of self-destruction. How are they doing this? Whispered Korvax. His intelligence officer, still nursing his bruised face, studied the readings. War Prime, they're coordinating perfectly. Every ship knows exactly what every other ship is doing. It's like they share one mind. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it was over, the entire Devourer swarm was gone. Not retreated, completely destroyed. Debris floated where thousands of enemy ships had been, and the human fleet had not lost a single vessel. Korvax stared at his sensors, unable to believe what he was seeing. Run full scans on the human ships. I want to know everything about their technology. The results made his blood run cold. The human ships were built from materials his scientists didn't recognize. Their weapons operated on principles the Corvin Empire had never discovered. Their coordination was so perfect that they responded to threats before his computers could even detect them. War Prime, his communications officer said quietly. The humans are requesting permission to come aboard. Admiral No wants to discuss the evacuation of all Confederation survivors. Korvax sat heavily in his command chair. The primitive species his empire had dismissed as worthless had just accomplished what the combined might of 12 civilizations could not do. They had defeated the Devourers with ease. The abandoned children had grown up to become gods. War Prime. Korvax had never knelt before anyone in his 300-year life. The massive Corvan warrior had conquered worlds, commanded fleets that darkened the skies of entire star systems, and ruled an empire that stretched across thousands of light years. But now, aboard the human flagship Harmony, he slowly lowered himself to one knee before a human female who barely reached his shoulder. Fleet Admiral Shin Young-ji stood quietly, her hands clasped behind her back. Around her, the bridge of the Harmony hummed with technology that Korvax could not understand. The walls seemed to pulse with living light, and he could sense the presence of countless human minds connected through their neural collective. "Admiral Shin," Korvax began, his deep voice cracking with emotion, "I come before you not as a conqueror, but as a beggar. My people are dying. My empire is dust. The Devourers have taken everything from us." He paused, struggling with words. He had never thought he would speak. "We cast you out as unworthy. We called you primitive. We abandoned you to die in isolation, thinking you were too weak to matter. Now we beg for your mercy." Behind Korvax, other alien leaders waited their turn. The high mind of the ethereal collective floated in its crystal chamber, its thoughts directly connected to the neural collective. The Zephyrian Captain Harmony Song stood with tears flowing down her blue face. Representatives from 8 other species, all that remained of the mighty Confederation, watched in silence. Admiral Shin studied Korvax's face for a long moment. Then she closed her eyes and connected to the neural collective across the solar system. Billions of human minds shared the alien leader's words and began to discuss what should be done. Korvax felt a strange sensation, as if invisible eyes were examining his thoughts. The humans were not reading his mind, but somehow he knew they were measuring his sincerity, weighing his intentions. The deliberation lasted exactly 3.7 seconds. Admiral Shin opened her eyes and spoke words that would be remembered for centuries. "We offer sanctuary to all who seek it. Every survivor, every refugee, every species that has suffered under the Devourer attack will find a home among us." Hope flickered in Korvax's eyes, but Shin continued. "However, the old ways are dead. The hierarchies that divided you, the territories that separated you, the pride that kept you from working together, all of this must end. We will not recreate the Confederation. We will build something new." The high mind of the ethereal collective pulsed with light as it transmitted its thoughts. "You speak of ending our ways. What would you have us become?" Shin replied simply. "Citizens of a new commonwealth where species work together instead of competing. Where knowledge is shared freely instead of hoarded. Where the strong protect the weak instead of ruling over them." Over the following months, the transformation began. Human ships spread across the galaxy, hunting down the remaining Devourer fleets. Their advanced technology made the battles quick and decisive. The machines that had seemed invincible to the Confederation were helpless against human tactics. Refugee camps on human worlds became permanent settlements. Alien children played alongside human children in schools where they learned together. Zephyrian artists collaborated with human musicians to create new forms of beauty. Corvan engineers worked with human scientists to build better ships and cities, Captain. Baijin Wu stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, a massive orbital city above Earth. Through the transparent walls, he could see ships arriving from across the galaxy. Each one brought more survivors, more refugees seeking the safety that only the human Commonwealth could provide. "Captain, the morning delegation is arriving," announced his aide, Lieutenant Park Myung. "The Mantis Hive representatives are here for the agricultural conference." Ginwoo nodded, watching as the insect-like aliens disembarked from their ship. A year ago, they had been proud warriors who considered humans beneath their notice. Now, they came as students, eager to learn human farming techniques that could feed their starving colonies. "Sir, there's also a message from Admiral Chen on the Eternal Vigilance," Myung continued. "They've located another Devourer nest beyond the galactic rim. The fleet is moving to intercept." "Good. How many does that make this month?" 17 nests destroyed, sir. "The collective estimates we've eliminated over 90% of the Devourer forces," The galaxy is becoming safe again. Ginwu smiled. The irony was not lost on him. The species that had been deemed too primitive for galactic society were now its protectors. Human fleets patrolled the dark spaces between stars, ensuring that no world would ever again face the terror of the Dever. Below the station, Earth turned slowly in its orbit. The blue world that had once been isolated and forgotten was now the center of a new civilization. Alien ambassadors walked the streets of human cities. Mixed crews of humans and aliens worked together on starships. Children of different species played together in parks that had been built to accommodate everyone. A chime sounded, announcing the arrival of another ship. Jinwu watched as it docked, carrying more beings who had come to seek shelter under human protection. The proud confederation was gone, replaced by something better, a true community where all species could thrive. The first Commonwealth Council. Meeting starts in an hour, Miang reminded him. Ginwu straightened his uniform. Then let's go make history. The stars that had once let go of Earth now held tight to what humanity had become, and humanity in turn embraced them all.